Hello, Ultimates. Welcome back to the final installment of Danganronpa, but done by a spinner. If you hadn't seen the first two parts, go back and check them out. We had one on the first game and the second game of the series. Danganronpa V3 spinner. But basically, the premise is essentially I'll spin the spinner and I'll craft a story around the characters as we go. We'll roll for protagonists, we'll roll for killers, we'll roll for victims. Sometimes I get confused. We make jokes, we have fun. To start off with, I'm just going to spin for our protagonist right now. Here we go. And our protagonist is going to be... Of course it's Mew. Mew, dirty-minded, weirdly thinking, genius inventor woman. Okay, that's interesting. So our protagonist will be Mew Iruma. I think Mew's interesting because she's actually pretty smart already, but she also has a goofy element where she jokes around and has fun with the trials. Lighthearted spin on a traditional protagonist with a lot of baggage. I would be curious who would be kind of their supporting character. A supporting character will be... Our supporting character, basically sidekick, if you will. So kind of like Kaede and Shuichi were, and then eventually Shuichi and Kaito was. Our supporting character is Tenko Chabashura. So we have a hype team. We have Mew Iruma with a really big ego, and then we have Tenko, and people think she's a lesbian, all that jazz. Basically, though, the one that's anti-men as our supporting character, being like, you're the best, you're a strong woman, hype her up. Who's going to be antagonizing these two? It's going to be a man. On it right now, it's a man. Kaede, Mew and Kaede were already kind of butting heads. She referred to her as small tits. They went back and forth. There's a little bit of animosity there. I think the idea is that Mew has this kind of lighthearted rivalry with Kaede. All right, chapter 1. Everybody's told that basically you have to kill somebody, and if nobody dies, then everyone will die. Our victim will be... Maki Harukawa, the ultimate assassin babysitter at this point, is going to die. So who killed Maki, the ultimate child caretaker and or ultimate assassin? You have to be pretty good to kill Maki. Are you kidding me right now? Kaede killed Maki? So when alarms are blaring, everyone's going to the classroom, right? In general, Maki is seen at many points in the game. Like when you first meet Maki, she's in the library, right? In this timeline, rather than Rantaro discovering or knowing about the secret passage, maybe he still does. He just doesn't say anything. He doesn't really do anything. Maybe he's even more open. Maybe Rantaro shares with Kaede, there's a secret passage here. I don't want to tell you how I know. I can't really express to you the full details. But there's a possibility the mastermind will be down there, right? So Maki during this time is kind of taking her time, studying up on her craft. At some point along the way, whether through the introduction or whatever, she knew about the secret passageway. Now, she's not the mastermind. She just happened to find it because she was in the library and she could see the dust, and she's an assassin, so she has a good perception of things. So when she goes down there, she's used to like sensing, killing intent from individuals. And then that picture, that flash will kind of confuse Maki, kind of blare her because it's late at night and the alarms are blaring. She can't really hear the ball rolling because can't really dodge it if you can't hear it, right? But she also can't really sense any killing intent, so she's just kind of in the library, just enjoying her last kind of few minutes of life, if she wills, before everybody all dies together. Goes over and checks out the camera that was randomly placed there, kind of being like, what is this? Am I going to be framed? Is somebody going to figure out my secret? Rather than Rantaro being the one killed by the shot put ball, she's killed by the shot put ball. In this timeline, the shot put ball, rather than missing, Kaede actually does have enough strength. She puts multiple in there even. So one comes down, hits Maki in the head. She's kind of bloodied. She's kind of injured. Right as she's lifting her head back up, kind of being like, what happened? Because she's bleeding from her head and kind of figure out like who attacked her. Another one falls and just finishes the job, cracking her skull and killing her. So both balls are there and covered in blood. Basically, it was a double shot put ball murder, and they couldn't hear the ball coming because of the sound, and she couldn't feel the killing intent because there's nobody in there but her. That would be how Maki would be killed by Kaede. Okay, chapter 2, everybody gets motives. The monopads were given to the individuals who had their family on there. Some were given about other people's family and their motives. The idea was people could trade and kind of swap around the information and watch them together if they wanted. So in this timeline, who will be killed and who is their victim? Our victim will be... probably our new antagonist should be Kokichi Oma. Our victim is Tenko! Oh no! Listen, I have problems with Tenko, but he does not need to die earlier in the game than chapter 3. Who kills Tenko? No. In this timeline, Shuichi and Kaede don't have the relationship they have in the normal game, okay? It wasn't as fleshed out, but he still feels terrible about her loss overall. He thinks that as an ultimate detective, his mindset is that he could win this game. Shuichi's given a video. Friends, of his family, of the people back home. Hey, Shuichi, we're so proud of you. Like the Makoto motive. Feels isolated, he feels alone from the group. He's quiet, he's timid, kind of an outcast on the side. So he doesn't have relationships like he does in the normal V3, okay? Following that up, one of the few relationships he has is Kaito Momoto. In the base game, he's a sidekick, everything like that. Basically, Kaito is trying to help pick him up, where he's noticing he's kind of teetering on the edge. So Kaito says, "I'll do you a favor. I'll give you your video. I didn't watch it because I don't want to, intrude on your privacy. But hey, I want you to be in this 100% with me, man. I'm your homie. I'm Kaito." Basically, Kaito doesn't have Maki around. There's no Maki relationship either. Kaito is also trying to, assemble a small group of people he can trust. He likes to think that with Shuichi's detective powers, they can possibly win the game. So he gives him his motive. Shuichi watches it. It's his family. Basically, they're in the background saying, "Well, we're so proud of you." And it's a similar motive to like the original motive in Danganronpa 1 from Makoto, where basically Shuichi's family is gone and his friends are gone, or there's like a threat that, hey, what happened to them? Or they relied on you. You needed to be there for them. Your uncle's detective business is going out of business. There's crimes being rampant. You need to get out in society. We needed the ultimate detective back in the world to stop evil. He feels this higher calling to get out of the game. He doesn't really have a plan set up in motion just yet, but what's happening is during the insect meet and greet, and Gonta has everybody gathered in that room, everybody's running around in a panic and there's bugs, right? And he can't really see everything. So what happens is that while Shuichi's running away from the bugs in a panic, he actually had a weapon in his pocket running around. It's not even necessarily a premeditated murder. He was planning a murder, or he was getting the tools together for a murder, but it just so happened along the way. But in his panic, kind of running around the room with these bugs swarming around them, one of the things he was going to use for his murder would be a rope. But when he's running around, what happens is he's running and Tenko's running, and he ends up catching onto Tenko's neck. And he's pulling and pulling and yanking as hard as possible, and it's choking on her. The bugs swarming around them, biting them and stinging them. Basically, somewhere along the way, he put so much effort just running and, crushing it and busting with these bugs just swarming around. Tenko passes out, but also chokes to death from the pressure of the rope gripping around her neck, suffocating her with the lack of air from the bugs. And then she dies. The thing is that nobody knows she's dead until way hours later because there's so many bugs in the room. Eventually, Gonta basically sends the bugs back. And that's when the body's revealed, when the bugs fly away. Everybody in the room is just staring in disbelief. In this regard, it would still offer a lot of, possibilities for culprits, and Shuichi could try different things to, live. Going to be a suspect, Kokichi would be a suspect, Shuichi would be a suspect, Himiko would be a suspect, Samugi would be a suspect, Ibo would be a suspect. Half the cast would be in that room and be suspect. Chapter 3, this is a double murder. So our two victims in this chapter will be A1BO. Who else will die in the chapter? Angie, again, Angie's in her workshop and she was working on her sculptures to revive somebody. K1BO, being a robot, was typically pretty rational. K1BO's rationality and how the people of the outside world are kind of influencing K1BO or Kibo. Basically, they're pushing Kibo to join the cult of Atua and basically come join the group of Atua, which consisted of Gonta, Angie, Himiko, and a whole bunch of other cast members. So he was on his way to there. He's a robot. He doesn't really sleep. He's just kind of always alive or awake. Inner voice tells him to go to join the group and go there during the night. Who killed him? Along the way, he kind of is seeing Kokichi kind of on the way to that room as well. He doesn't really think anything of it. In fact, he even is so polite. He's like, it's rude to interrupt people when they're talking, so I'll sit outside and wait, right? So he sits outside by the door. Eventually, Kokichi leaves the room and Angie doesn't. When he tries to get inside, Kokichi, when he sees that Kibo is there in the hall, he decides to kill him too. Kokichi's kind of carrying a mace. He had gotten that weapon from Orkyo's display on the same floor. So Kibo was a little confused on why he needed a mace or brought a mace from that room, and it was kind of pink and bloody. Before he can even ask a single question at the doorway, Kokichi just takes that, and because it's a stupid robot, he says, "You're a stupid robot," and just takes the little mace and just smashes him on the head. Basically caves in the robot's skull. He keeps smashing until the robot's just kind of dead. The mace actually gets stuck in his robot armor. So it's a locked room murder. Be like, okay, did she kill herself? But then why is Kibo dead outside? Chapter 4. This was the virtual reality chapter. Our victim will be Ryoma Hoshi. Dies in our 4th chapter, living much farther than his chapter 2 death. Ryoma was killed in the virtual reality. In the real world, he had his ability to kind of maneuver very quickly with his small speed. But in the virtual world, everybody was equalized and his speed didn't really help him in the end. The person who killed him in the virtual world was Samugi. Samugi would be not the mastermind. Samugi would be revealed as a actor if you will, in the series, or rather a inside trader working with Mastermind in the Monokuma. With Tsumugi as the trader, though, she was obsessed with Danganronpa, obsessed with the game overall. She always wanted to be on the show, and she always wanted to kill, and she wouldn't give the information away. In this situation, as everybody's getting into the virtual world where Mew is, Tsumugi purposely is waiting and kind of holding the helmet on her head or half there. He's basically faking that she's joining the simulation. And she doesn't care if she's caught or died. The idea is she'd kill Ryoma, or everybody even loads in, and so Ryoma just wouldn't load in, or maybe it would be an error, or maybe it says error, Ryoma not available in location, right? But the idea would be Ryoma was killed before even entering the simulation, and Tsumugi would just act like a normal person who was the last person to join. Okay, chapter 5. So our victim will be in chapter 5. So Kaito will be the victim. Who will murder Kaito? Who will murder Kaito? Korkyu, he wasn't one of those early killers. He was always kind of like Celeste, planning his moves throughout the whole game, but also he wanted to watch humanity and watch the emotion and watch how everybody reacts to death, and he finds it honorable and kind of culturally impactful. So he has taken Kaito or kidnapped him, or he drugged him by putting a rag to his face while he's sleeping. Full psychopath. In that regard is that people would come by to help him, or they would kind of do their best, but the Korkyu has access to the Exisouls, and the warehouse was kind of his base of operations. So along the way, you'd see kind of Rantaro coming by and chatting with him. You'd have Kirumi kind of request Kirumi to bring him a crossbow, just like in the base kind of game, where he'd bring a crossbow into the bathroom overall. You'd have Gon to try to like get on the thing or try to get into the warehouse overall. Himiko the same. Everybody's super eager to help out. Mew is just kind of like, whatever. I mean, Kaito should be okay. We just both play Korkyu's game. He's probably the mastermind. Again, everybody was brainwashed at this point. Kaito takes that crossbow and actually shoots him with it. He has a poison arrow in there. He shot that poison arrow into Korkyu. It's slowly getting weakened, but Korkyu had Kaito restrained or had him handcuffed or had him to the point where he was too weak. He just loses it after being poisoned and realizing he's going to die and that he won't be able to get out of here alive too. Takes Kaito and puts him on the hydraulic press, locks him into place and says it's time for like a French style execution, because he's just obsessed with culture. He crushes Kaito right then and there, hides away in an Exisol to imply he's maybe not alive, and at that point he goes back and forth between Korkyu, Kaito, and then they eventually discover it's Korkyu. Chapter 6. So the mastermind was... Alright, the mastermind was Kirumi Tojo. All game Kirumi's been everybody's kind of mom, support, everything like that, making food, helping them in any way, helping maybe murderers, helping maybe non-murderers, helping in the trials, basically just doing everything perfectly. Well, Kirumi was given the task by the producers overall to come on to Danganronpa and be the mastermind of this season. Say season 53, Kirumi argues that only 2 of them can survive. Kirumi's arguing you can't escape. Well, Mew, and this whole time throughout the game, had obviously been solving trials, but has been inventing a wider range of things overall. So Mew at the end just basically goes full like Power Rangers up in here, and basically gives Himiko an actual magic wand, straight up like Monami's magic wand that can make things happen in the real world and cause magic to happen. Gives Rantaro an excavator / robot mechanized unit where he can kind of control with his brain. And she straight up gives him like Hulk powers, kind of injects him with this syringe that kind of bulks him out. And at the very end, so with everybody's powers combined, they all get out of there. But Gonta is the one that has to suffer the most, because Gonta gets this kind of experimental drug that basically makes him go green and Hulk out and basically destroys the academy and kind of forces Rumi to fail her mission and lose in the end. Everybody else gets out of there successfully in the end in the after image. But Gonta, it's kind of up in the air if he's even alive, because he basically got drugged and seemed to be having reactions and he could have died along the way. But breaking down the whole school like that with Gonta's strength and, you know, power overall, they were able to escape. Our surviving cast would be Mew, Himiko, and Rantaro. So now that you've gotten to the end of the video, out of all of the characters of Danganronpa V3, if you had to pick only 3 to survive, who would you pick and why to escape and live in the real world? You just have to pick 3 in the comments section. Otherwise, give a like to the video, but liking allows it to be shared in the algorithm better and just allows me to have more ultimates and just have people join up overall. So I really appreciate you guys just liking the content, and it just really helps to see people interacting with it. So that's all I really have for today. Thank you very much, Ultimates. Peace out.